I saw Las Tres Sisters almost a week ago now, and it's still on my mind, so I decided I wanted to go ahead and make a video and talk about it with you guys. About a week ago, Polly from Latino Slant contacted me and asked if I would be willing to screen a movie and write an honest review for it. And I was absolutely down for that. So I went ahead and watched the film, wrote my review, but the movie has been on my mind quite a bit since, not only because it was kind of cool, to write this review for Latino Slant and also be able to watch a movie that I don't have access to right now, because while it is in theaters, I don't know if it's like a limited release or something, because it's not in my area. I would have gone to see this after having screened it just to support it. I would have gone to see it on the big screen because it's an indie film. And I do feel like indie movie making is kind of where it's at right now, because if you have decent talent and you've got good writing and you know the basics of filmmaking, you can put out something that's not going to break the bank and something that can appeal to people who are looking for fresh stories that don't come from big, huge corporate studios and all of that stuff. So Las Tres Sisters is one of those. Incidentally, Pauly had all three of the main actors on his channel sometime last week, I think. And it's been interesting to listen to that interview. And they talked about the process of making this film. It was about 9 years in the making. And the three girls who worked on this film, they're personal acquaintances, friends. And so they kind of collabed on this project. And one of the actresses, Marta, who played Maria, she was also one of the co-writers. They got a Mexican director her name is Mar Novo, to direct it. This is her first feature-length film. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. I do have some quibbles with it, but the fact that I'm still thinking about it just because of some of the more serious issues that are touched upon, and also it really did pull on some heartstrings. Now, it's comedic also, which I wasn't expecting that level of comedy. It's kind of like a road trip type movie, but it's a little bit of a twist to it. I'll go ahead and give you the synopsis. That was a long ass intro before getting into the actual stuff about this movie, which was that, as I already said, it was directed by Mar Novo. It stars Marta Méndez Cross, Valeria Maldonado, and Virginia Novello, who has gorgeous eyes, by the way. I couldn't... It's like, whoa, those eyes. It also stars a face you're probably familiar with. His name is Cristo Fernández. He had a little bit part in the Venom movies, maybe like a little, was it a little scene he was in one of the Spider-Man movies? I don't remember. Whatever. I recognized him as soon as I saw him. I just wasn't sure where I had seen him at. So I looked him up and then I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember who he is. Anyway, it's about these three Mexican-American sisters, Maria, Sofia, and Lucia. Maria wants to take this pilgrimage that their grandmother took a long time ago, decades back, in Mexico to ask for a miracle. So she convinces her sisters to join her, but the thing is, the sisters have this fractured relationship, specifically Lucia and Sofia. So Maria arranges this get-together with them without telling them anything about, number one, what she wanted to do, and number two, why she wanted to take this pilgrimage. She finally convinces them to join her on this pilgrimage, and it takes quite a bit of convincing because Sofia and Lucia, they're just like this with each other, okay? And there's just a lot of resentment there. But out of love for Maria, they eventually concede to take this pilgrimage. And that's why I said it's like a road trip with a twist, because they're walking this pilgrimage. That's the whole thing about the pilgrimage. Sometimes they cheat and do things like hop on a hay bale being pulled by a tractor or stuff like that. But for the most part, they are walking this journey. And the comedy is in the situational moments that happen. The fact that Maria, she's kind of lost a bit of her Spanish over the years. So there's humor in the translation issues that happen when she's trying to talk. And she's just she's so sweet and so joyful, and it's cute and adorable when these moments happen. And so as they are taking this journey and squabbling along the way, but also they have touching moments with each other and different discussions that happen between them. And they eventually meet a mysterious local. His name is Kin, K-I-N. And he ends up being someone who is important along the way in their journey. It's almost like he's sort of helping them along in a sense. And they get to know him and they meet other people along the way. And it's just kind of like this interesting little, almost like slice of lifey type of situations that occur as they meet people, strangers, do things like have meals with them, spend the night at their place, and put themselves in what could sometimes be considered potentially dangerous situations. But this is a dramedy, so it's not really about that sort of thing. I mean, there were moments that I was thinking, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? But it's lighthearted in the sense that that's not really what the film is about, and that's not an issue at all. There were several moments that, and when I say plucked on the heartstrings, it was moving. I was brought to tears on more than one occasion. I don't like to cry, you guys. I don't like it. But I do find myself, and I don't know if maybe it has something to do with my age or whatever, the fact that I've been through some situations that characters in movies are going through that I can kind of identify with to a certain extent. But some things just really, really move me. And there were times in here that was definitely a thing with me. I also really liked how these sisters were straddling the line between two cultures. Two of the sisters live in the US. Sofia lived in Mexico. But there were constant switches back and forth between English and Spanish as they would talk amongst themselves or even with other people. And I felt like the title of this movie, Las Tres Sisters, it was the perfect encapsulation of that entire scenario of these women who were they have a foot in each culture, and how that shapes them as people and their relationship with each other. Having said all that, while I did enjoy this film, I did have some issues with it. Not enough to make me dislike it, not enough to make me not recommend it as a watch, especially if you like indie movies and if you like drama films with a touch of comedy. These were some of the things that stood out to me. One was, well, this is the director's first, like I already mentioned, her first feature-length film. And there were moments where, while certain moments flowed pretty well, there were other moments where transitions between things that were happening felt a little bit disjointed or fragmented, like there were parts that were missing from this flow of the narrative. And then also there were some conversations that happened between people that, and this is not necessarily, I don't know, it's not necessarily a thing director related, but sort of kind of, because, the director can come in and can mold and shift things a little bit to make it better. But in the writing, there were some moments where the sisters would be having these conversations that kind of came off as a bit exaggerated and not executed as well as other times. In these moments, it felt like it was something that was being inserted to force humor into the situation or to move the plot along in a specific way. And unfortunately, those particular times wasn't very effective for me. Like I noticed it, and it was something that kind of got under my skin a little bit. I'll give you a couple examples. There is a scene where the girls are bonding with each other, as siblings do, and they have this conversation. It delves into like their sex life, and it gets rather lewd, and it's supposed to be funny. I'm feeling a little cringe. Maybe it's just also because I am not about that type of talk. And so it really was not anything that resonated very well with me at all. And some of the situations that they were describing felt like it was kind of done to try to portray these sisters as, look how cool and open and exploratory they are. And this is so funny, this conversation they're having. And I was just like, no, that part didn't work too well for me. And then there was another scene where the sisters this definitely felt like a forced moment, where they're having this conversation, and it felt like the whole reason for that conversation was to reveal the fact that one of the sisters has a purse full of pregnancy tests inside. It felt clunky. It didn't feel like it was something that was organic. It's like, okay, we have to show that she has these in her purse, so let's come up with this moment that it's going to happen. But the way it happened, well, it didn't feel organic, like I already said. There was another issue that I had also with one of the characters, and that was with the character of Sofia. Now, I get the way she's supposed to be because she's got a lot of things that she's dealing with within her own self. I did appreciate that they showed the struggles that each woman had in their life and the stuff that they were dealing with, and how these things kind of got hashed out as they went along, and consequently helped them to grow closer and sort of help to repair this damage that had happened in their relationship. But Sofia, while that agitated me the way she was, which it's supposed to, I mean, she would do things that was just a little bit too much. Like there is a scene where she just runs off with this complete stranger so she can go, mess around with him in the barn or whatever, wherever the hell they went. She just left her other sister or both of her sisters behind, just going off with a complete stranger. It aggravated me on her sister's behalf because she's just running off with this guy. And also there were moments where when she would act out in certain ways, it was like she was constantly, she made it very clear how much she likes sex, right? And she never let us forget it. And so that felt like that was just a skosh too much. I get there was a reason for this because this is part of the stuff that she's dealing with, struggles that she's having. But sometimes it felt a skosh cartoony when it would happen. Just so it was like, it just felt like a bit much. That probably would have worked better if the extremeness of the way she acted was smoothed out just a bit, because I found myself getting super, super annoyed with her character. It didn't stay that way. It kind of came and went, but when she would act up, I was like, oh, jeez. Come on, But those things that I'm mentioning, those are the main cons that come to my mind when I think of Las Tres Sisters. I appreciated more about it than I had an issue with, and that's why I'm still thinking about it, just because of the storyline. Now, while religion is rooted in this story, it's not, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a faith-based film, like how The Unbreakable Boy was and Best Christmas Pageant Ever was. It's not really faith-based, though religion does play a crucial part in the story because of this pilgrimage that they're taking. They're asking for a miracle and that sort of thing. So it's not something, I would say, if you really don't like faith-based films of any kind, that wouldn't really be something that's a problem in here, even though there are elements of that. You'll know what I mean when you see it. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting film. If you're someone who likes dramedies and you especially like to watch films that implement cultures of other areas that maybe you're not completely familiar with, or even if you are familiar with it, I think this is something that is worth your while to check out. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough about Las Tres Sisters. I don't have anything else. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We'll see you guys in the next video. Hasta luego.